The James Webb Telescope finishes unfolding. The James Webb Space Telescope is an infrared space observatory from NASA, launched on December 25, 2021, from the European Space Agency launch site at Kourou, in French Guiana, on board the Ariane 5 rocket. Only now has this piece of genius completed its unfolding. This telescope is an astronomical marvel, and the team behind it cannot be praised enough. This telescope costs $10 billion, and it's NASA's largest space telescope. This telescope results from the collaboration between NASA and the European Space Agency (ESA) and the Canadian Space Agency. NASA also involved around 300 universities, organizations, and companies across 29 states in the US and 14 countries. It will probe the entire cosmos, which will help uncover the history of the universe beginning from the Big Bang to the formation of the planets and so on. This telescope will make the Hubble telescope look like an amateur, that's for sure. The standard duration of this space telescope is 5 years, and the goal is to stretch it to 10 years as per ESA. The space telescope was previously known as the Next Generation Space Telescope, but was renamed the James Webb Telescope in 2002. It was renamed after former NASA chief James Webb took charge of NASA from 1961 to 1968. He retired only a few months before Neil Armstrong took that one leap for humanity. Under Webb, NASA carried out more than 75 space missions to the Sun, stars, galaxies, and the space above the Earth's atmosphere. A legend of astronomy in every sense. It's estimated that this telescope will take 30 days to travel 1 million miles to its permanent resting spot, which will be a gravitationally stable location in outer space known as Lagrange Point. The James Webb Space Telescope will orbit the Sun in a different Lagrange point, which will help the telescope stay in the same line as the Earth. The primary mirror size of the telescope is 21.3 feet, and its sun shield has dimensions of 69.5 feet by 46.5 feet. The entire mass of the telescope is 14,300 pounds, that's 6,500 kgs. The structure. This honeycomb-shaped structure is 3 stories high and is the size of a tennis court. The largest telescope sent into space is also 100 times more powerful than the Hubble telescope. This rocket is so massive that it has to fold itself to fit into a rocket. Its structure allows it to unfold segment by segment once it's present in space. The James Webb Space Telescope mirrors are coated with extremely thin layers of gold, about 1,000 atoms thick, to optimize their reflectivity in the infrared regions. Application. Once this telescope launches, it will undergo a series of tests such as deploying a sun shield, telescope instruments, and telescope alignment. To get the best images from the telescope, we'll have to wait for another 5 months, as the launch only occurs last month, on December 25, 2021. That is the time expected for clear images because the images with a little bit of light will be seen in due time. Being a massive upgrade to the Hubble telescope, the James Webb Telescope will take some breathtaking pictures of celestial bodies in space. And the good news for astronomers is that the 2 telescopes are going to be working side by side in space in the James Webb Telescope's first few years. Getting into the scientific details of these two, the 2 telescopes, Hubble and James Webb Space, have different capabilities and functions. The Hubble observed the cosmos in optical and UV wavelengths. The James Webb Space Telescope will look at the universe in infrared. This is mainly due to the expansion of the universe, and light from distant objects will shift to longer wavelengths at the red-colored end of the spectrum. As for the James Webb Telescope, it will observe infrared light with immense details and shed its light on the most primitive stars and galaxies that the universe had the honor of hosting. Another significant difference between these 2 telescopes is the Hubble telescope will orbit the Earth, whereas the James Webb Telescope will orbit the Sun. Hence, why the sun shield has been built onto it. According to NASA, the telescope will focus on 4 sectors: light in the universe, the assembly of galaxies in the universe, the birth of stars, and finally, the planets that came into being. All 4 of them are discussed below. Light in the universe. This refers to the universe's early stages after the Big Bang took place. After it occurred, the universe was an entire set of particles that consisted of simply neutrons, electrons, and protons. There was no light visible until the universe cooled down and these particles began to combine. The earliest instances of how our universe came into being will be looked into this study. Assembly of galaxies in the universe. Looking at galaxies is a helpful way to see how the matter became organized in different states and in big and small. This gives us a hint as to how the universe evolved after billions of years. The spiral and elliptical galaxies we see today evolved from different structures. Astronomers and scientists are also trying to figure out how different kinds of galaxies came into existence and how galaxies form and are assembled. The birth of stars. The birthplace of stars will also be something this telescope will be looking towards. Stars are clouds of gas, and as they tend to grow, the exerted radiation manages to blow away the gas on the outer layers. The infrared eyes of this telescope, discussed at the start, will help look at the sources of heat, especially those stars born with these gases. The origin of planets. Finally, the origin of planets, in which our Earth is also included, will be observed, and with the vast number of planets discovered in the last decade or so, it'll be a treat for this telescope. The powerful sensors of the James Webb Space Telescope will look into these planets and with more depth and imagine their atmospheres during the time of their origin. Understanding the conditions of other planets will help scientists to decide whether a planet is habitable or not. The art of delays. The James Webb Space Telescope was first expected to take flight in 2007. Since then, there have been continuous delays. Engineering problems, political backlash, and project management issues prevented this telescope from taking to outer space. In 2001, American politicians threatened to pull the plug on the telescope's funding, but after a few tense months, the spacecraft was given the green light. Then in 2018, the anticipated launch of the telescope was delayed due to technical issues arising in the spacecraft. In the same year, in June, a review board postponed the launch to March 2021. Things couldn't clearly go on like this. But surprisingly enough, this wasn't the last of delays. In 2020, the pandemic hindered this telescope's progress, and its new launch date was announced as October 31st, 2021. The delays weren't stopping, and at one point, there came a lot of doubt whether this telescope would meet its expected flight year, which was 2021, or would more delays push it into 2022. Then in June of last year, there were problems with Ariane 5 launch that pushed the date back to November or possibly early December 2021. After that, in September of the same year, NASA and ESA announced another delay as the observatory had not been shipped from its original location in California to ESA's launch site in French Guiana. December 18th was the final launch date, but the delays had the last laugh again, with bad weather being the reason this time. Finally, the telescope launched successfully on December 25th, 2021 at 7:20 a.m. EST. The next 10 years in space for the James Webb Telescope will be something. The teams are organized, and the organizations involved can be very proud of what they achieved. It's because it will help them unravel so many secrets our universe has to offer. From stars to galaxies to planets, all of this will be a treat for astronomers. The first set of images from this telescope are being awaited because by the time they're here, it'll cause a lot of hype.